As you now get ready to talk about the nitty-gritty of finance, your first step is going to be to decide what kind of finance you need. Now be careful here, because as I start talking about the technical categories and criteria, you might be tempted to forget that finance approvals are actually a personal and emotional business. The decision revolves first and foremost around fears, not technicalities. It's way more human than you might care to think. So think with your heart first, and then let your brain close the deal. But by that I don't mean pure emotion. Pure emotion is a kind of a subjective feeling. I'm happy about this, I'm sad about this, I like chocolate more than vanilla. This is more the kind of inner sensation that is about gut feel, a type of understanding, maybe even a type of empathy. It's actually not subjective at all. When you say my gut says I don't trust that guy, you're actually saying that this person is exhibiting behavior that looks a little too much like something that has hurt me in the past, and I'm not proceeding until I check this out in more detail with my brain. I deal with a lot of successful people, and 100% of them have that gut feel. Now, lenders are no different. There are things that you will say that will remind them of deals that have gone wrong, or make them feel that they're not in a safe space. And that's what activates the fear of loss. And that's why when a lender says no, just accept it and forget about arguing your point. Because what they're really saying is there's too much fear for me around your deal. And here's a bunch of reasons to justify the fears I already have. But remember, just like your gut feel, the fear came before the reasons. And that's why the first two lessons are focused on this concept so strongly. It means it's the means by which lenders make decisions. But because of the stiff, unemotional image the finance world has, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it's a cold-hearted business. So let's put categorizing your loan into that emotional framework. A lending fund or a bank usually has rules that they must operate within. In other words, if a bank or a fund manager steps outside of those criteria, they get fired. That's a pretty big fear. In a bank's case, this is based on corporate policy that is all about the overall risk strategy and, of course, government regulations. Banking is highly regulated. For example, forget about taking anything that resembles venture capital for a startup business to a bank. Your chance of getting a deal are never zero, but it's pretty close to zero. And I just tell all my clients, with venture capital, don't even bother. Call your rich uncle. That's because your granny's savings are deposited in the bank, and their job is to keep granny's savings safe and pay her a modest interest rate that she can count on. Banks are built for that. Not for granny's savings being mostly safe, but for granny's savings being virtually 100% safe. So if you understand the emotion both granny and a bank manager are looking for, safety, you'll go to your banker for a home loan, maybe a credit card, but never for venture capital. Fund managers, in the same way, will be bound to strict promises they've made to their investors. Not regulations, but strict promises. When they launch the fund, a fund manager's biggest fear is losing their reputation. So if they've made a promise, they will want to stick to it, and that's exactly what you'd expect. There's also wisdom in that, because they have limited expertise. They've put together a team around a particular skill set, and will be nervous about doing deals outside of that experience and skill set. Quite logical. We all learn the hard way that we can't be good at everything. We all at some point need to choose a speciality and expand that speciality quite carefully. And maybe that's exactly why you're on this course. You're expanding your existing skill set just a little bit, but you don't want to stretch your boundaries too far. You want to build on what's already there. So when it comes to categorizing your loans so that you can talk to the right fund, or the right division, or the right bank, you simply need to look at how the lender has put together what they think is an acceptable combination of risk fears they can manage for the return they need to generate. There's an endless number of ways a lender can classify themselves, but usually it looks like a combination of 3 or 4 things. So I'm just going to run through a few examples so that you get the concept. And once you get the concept, you'll know which funds you need to be talking to about your particular loan that you're looking at. You've got to think about the liquidity in the term. How long is the loan? What duration of loan is this fund trying to attract? Because they've told their investors how long they need to wait if they ever want to get their money out. What's the source of repayment? Linked to term, because it also tells the lender how quickly and reliably they can extract their cash. For example, a commodity lender who lends into a copper transaction can get their money out quickly because copper trades quickly. But not so with real estate. Real estate takes a little bit of time. Geographic focus, it's quite common for a lender to say we only lend to, say, sub-Saharan Africa. Each region has unique competencies required for that particular region. Different laws in different regions, for example. And a lender may not feel comfortable lending into a region where they don't have an office, because they may need to prevent a deal from going sour. A deal may already go sour, it'll happen sooner or later, and then they'll need boots on the ground. And then there's security type. It's quite common for a bank or a fund to divide their business into what types of security: the property division, the asset finance division, and so on. So once you've applied your mind to a handful of principles like that, you'll know which funds to choose for which loan. If you're using this course to start a finance business or even an internal finance department, you will want to keep a database of which funds approved or declined which deals, because you need to revise that database for every approval or decline you get on behalf of a client especially. The reason for this is that what a lender publishes as their credit criteria may not be exactly what the actual present credit criteria are. And this might annoy you a little bit, but it's more normal than you think, because every business is made up of human beings who start with a broad mission statement of what they do and why they do it. Then that turns into a kind of refined knowledge over time as they test what works and what doesn't work. And that part can't really be published. That's something you learn, unfortunately, only from interacting with them. But once you find that sweet spot, the upside is, of course, you can almost guarantee approval. You'll sit in front of a client and you'll look at a particular transaction. You'll say, okay, that fund will do it for me. And you look your client in the eye confidently and say, yeah, you've got a deal. And you can be 99% certain that you can deliver. If you're just on this course for your own business, this might explain why deals are never that simple. You always get this feeling that you don't really know what the lender does or doesn't want from you. It's feeling a bit mysterious no matter what they say, and that's why we're going to help you go down this road, putting together a pack that you can present to multiple lenders. Remember, we said this is no different to any sales pitch. If you put together the right ingredients and you spread it amongst enough clients, in this case lenders, who are going to buy your deal, one of them will bite. You don't know which one, unfortunately, but you do know that one of them will bite if you take it to enough. It's just the simple law of closing deals.